You're with Julian on the brown note, and none of these are going to come out because of the sun. A review of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves, and now I can't see my phone because I've been staring straight into the sun. Directed by Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, who have some really good comedic pedigree, because they did Games Night, which was awesome, track it down, one of the best comedies of the last 10 years, and Horrible Bosses, which again, one of the best comedies of the last 10 years. Although Horrible Bosses 2, which they also did, is one of the worst, unfortunately. A second stab at a Dungeons and Dragons movie, but very different to what I was thinking. I thought it was gonna be like the World of Warcraft movie. Sort of like a very straight fantasy film, but it's not. It's a very funny film, and it's closer at times in a winning way to The Princess Bride. I wish more than anything that they had trusted themselves to lean more fully into that, because at its best it does lean into that romantic comedic tone, and I don't mean like romantic comedy, I mean sort of like the romance of the whole sort of fantasy medieval world. It's not really Lord of the Rings. It's more like that sort of swashbuckly sort of world. And it stars Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez are shown in the jail at the start, and they've been put in there by nefarious forces, and Chris Pine has lost his daughter to being in jail, but also his wife was killed, and he's sort of set off being slightly a mercenary. But when he gets out of jail, escaping when he doesn't need to, with Michelle Rodriguez, he tries to hunt down his daughter, and his daughter is with Hugh Grant, who is now the guy from Shrek, the little guy who runs the castle, is basically him. But he was his friend, and he's now adopted his daughter. And Chris Pine turns up expecting it all to be wine and roses, and basically Hugh Grant is a complete bugger and has basically decided to take Chris Pine's daughter and put Chris Pine in jail or have him killed. So the rest of the film, I've forgotten the plot now. So there's a wizard that works with the Hugh Grant character, who's all-powerful, and they have some very bad plans for this entire town. And Pine gets together with Pine and Rodriguez get together with Justice Smith, who's another sorcerer, but a very inept, cowardly sorcerer, and Sophia Lillis as Doric, who is... Is it her? Yeah, she's another one that helps. What film was she in? Because I did remember that one. Yeah, I don't remember her in It Chapter 2, which is weird, because I definitely have seen her in something. No, I can't remember. But she comes across at times, looks and vibe-wise, like Karen Gillan in the Jumanji films. So she's kind of like this semi-cute, semi-quirky, semi-aggressive personality that can change into beasts. And they basically traipse through the countryside, having adventures and fighting big, very fat dragons, and all culminating in this big sort of standoff with the Hugh Grant and the sorcerers. And it has like a backstory of, you know, the sorcerers have been in control all along, and they're evil, and they're going to destroy everyone and put them under their spell, and Chris Pine and his band of incompetents are trying to save them all. Now, I thought this was an absolute blast. High recommend. It's on streaming now. The flaws for me is it doesn't trust itself enough. Like, if you would say which of the Chris's is a comedic actor, you're going to say Chris Pratt. But I think the most skillful comedic actor is Chris Pine. He can often play very serious roles. He's grown as an actor so much. Chris Pratt hasn't really grown as an actor. He's still in that very narrow band. But Chris Pine can do Hell or High Water, a really sort of dour, serious role, or that very underappreciated romantic Cold War film that he did last year, or he can do like this kind of comedy. His his delivery and his timing is excellent. But the best of this film is Michelle Rodriguez and him have great chemistry, and when it leans into the comedy of them together, it's at its best. And I just wish it would do it more. I wish it would lean into the Princess Bride vibe a bit more, and not feel like it has to sort of rely on action as much. It's got innumerable very funny sequences, like the dragon is obesely fat, which is for some reason hysterically funny. Many of the encounters they have along the way are excellent. Hugh Grant is fantastic as well, and Regé-Jean Page, who is the star of the first series of Bridgerton, who seems to send himself up spectacularly as this very sort of noble, very good-looking, completely devoid of any sort of flaw human being. He's very, very funny, and the relationship between him and Chris Pine, who's, for such a good-looking preppy boy, he's so good at playing these kind of con artist failure guys who talk a good game but always stuff everything up. He's really good at that, and having like perfection on one side and Chris Pine stuffing everything up, and the clash between them was another high point. I really hope this becomes a franchise, and I hope that they bring back Grant and Regé-Jean Page and the two leads if it does. I thought the other two, Justice Smith and Sophia Lillis, were completely fine, kind of like the sidekicks in Jumanji, but a little less memorable. It's got a lot of funny stuff in it. Michelle Rodriguez, her character sends herself up a bit as well, the tough girl thing, and the fact that she's got a thing for really small men. Again, I thought that it often threw out things that were a little bit wrong and at the same time unexpected and surprising and funny. So she likes Bradley Cooper, who's like 2 feet tall, and all of her race of people have this thing for really, really tiny men. It's bizarre. So overall, it's a blast. It has got quite a long, involved story, most of which I forgot, but great performances, some really good laugh out loud comedy. The bit where Chris Pine's playing his song and his face keeps changing. Hugh Grant is always great as a cad, and it's got some nice visuals as well. It looks like they spent a lot of money on it. I don't know how much it made, 150 million, so quite a lot of money. I don't know if it did well enough at the box office, but it's the kind of film that will live for years on streaming, as it's very, very amiable and easy to watch. So I'm going to give Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves an 8 out of 10.